Hey traders, John Fortune here with this week's Weekly Forex Forecast for the 20th of May to the 24th of May 2019. As always, we're going to start off by looking at the US dollar index and oil before running through a number of markets, looking at the key levels of support and resistance in the process. I'm also going to be highlighting some of the targets that we're going to be looking for in this coming week and also for the weeks ahead. So let's jump over to the charts and see where the money is this week. So the first market we're going to look at is the US dollar index. Now, last week we identified the 97.34 as a key area of support. We were looking for a bounce for a rally in the dollar index. We started to make our way towards the target set from last week at the 98.50. Very simply put, for anybody who did not take advantage of this dollar rally last week, we are looking for further advances to the upside in the US dollar. We're looking for a conservative target, you could say, at the 98.30 roughly, which is the high over here for reasons discussed in previous videos. But for anybody who did not take advantage of this rally last week, very simply put, we're looking for a correction to take place in the dollar index, possibly another retest of broken support, turning resistance at the 97.34, but because we've tested it a number of times already, we may not get another test. But any correction in this area, we're going to view as an opportunity to look for further advances in the dollar index. And we're going to be seeing if we can achieve this target of the 98.50 set from last week. So the next market we're going to look at is crude oil. Now, last week we were sitting in this area and we were looking for one move up into the 62.93, and we highlighted this as an area to look for potential shorting opportunities. We did actually have shorts from this area, came down very, very hard, and we missed the target actually outlined last week by just a handful of pips or so before rallying back up towards the 62.93, and this is where we start the week. We're actually currently in a range between the 62.93 and the 60.60, so you can, if you so wish, wait for the range to break one way or another, okay, and take these kind of setups. Or you can actually choose to play the range instead from where we're sitting. So very simply put, we are at an area now where we could start to look for potential bearish formations and patterns. And if we get the right kind of bearish formations and patterns in this area, we're going to consider initiating shorts in crude oil down towards the next key area of support to the downside in the range bottom at the 60.60. So the first pair we're going to look at is euro dollar. Now, last week we highlighted the key area of resistance of 1.1255 that we were looking at in euro dollar. This was an area we were looking for declines to the downside. We did get a really nice sell-off from the 1.1255, and we have started to make our way now towards the target to 1.1119. Anybody not already involved in the euro dollar from last week, very simply put, we're going to be looking for a correction in the euro dollar this week, preferably if we can come back and retest the key area of resistance, the 1.1255. Why? Because this always gives us better risk to reward. But as we've already tested it once over here, you may find that we just get a correction like this and a breakout, let's say around the 1.12220. But any correction in this area is going to give us an opportunity to once again look for bearish formations and patterns. And we're going to be looking at initiating shorts down towards the next key area of support on the target set from last week at the 1.1119. So the next market we're going to look at is pound dollar. Now, last week we were looking for further declines in the pound dollar, and we did take out the target set last week at the 1.2840. Very simply put, we did have a big decline to the downside last week in pound dollar. We're still only looking now for further declines to the downside. Any correction in this area is going to provide us with an opportunity to start to look for bearish formations and patterns. Preferably, as always, if we could come back and retest broken support, turning resistance at the 1.29640, although this was such a big sell-off from last week that this would take a couple of weeks. This would be a couple of weeks of correction if we did come all the way back here. But any correction in this area, we're going to start to look for reversals to the downside, and any correction is going to be an opportunity to start to look for short positions in pound dollar. And we're going to be looking at initiating shorts down towards the next target to the downside of the key area of support at the 1.2662. And if we can get a breakthrough here, we're going to be looking down towards the next key area of support to the downside and target 2 at the 1.2481. So the next market we're going to look at is US dollar Japanese yen. Now, last week we bounced from the 109.090. If we are going to get further advances to the upside in the US dollar index, as we were looking at last week and we are also looking at going into next week, we are going to be looking for further advances in the US dollar Japanese yen. Just bear in mind this is slightly counter trend, but if we are going to get dollar strength, and we also have a good target up here of a previous level from the past of broken support looking to turn resistance to the 111.04, and also this gap that was created over here, which we're looking at as a potential place to come back to if the market is going to close this gap. So very simply put, going into next week, we're looking for the 109.090 to hold. If we can get a small correction, possibly even one more retest of the 109.090, this is going to be a great opportunity to start to look for further advances to the upside in the US dollar Japanese yen. And we're going to be looking up towards the next key area of resistance to the upside, and also the area of this previous gap at the 111.040. So next market we're going to look at is Aussie dollar. Now the Aussie dollar is declining to the downside, it's trending to the downside. Last week we were looking for further declines in the Aussie dollar, and we took out both targets to the downside at 0.69470 and also the 0.6907. Very simply put, as we're looking for further advances in the dollar index, and as the Australian dollar is still trending to the downside, we have no reason to look for anything other than short positions in the Aussie dollar next week. What we'd like to see as we're approaching this target of 0.6830 is a correction take place in the Aussie dollar. As always, if we can get a pullback and a retest of broken support turning resistance at the 0.69640, this is preferable as it gives us a better risk to reward ratio down towards the target. However, any correction in this area, we're going to start to look for reversals to the downside. We're going to be looking at initiating shorts in the Aussie dollar next week, down towards the next key area of support to the downside and the target set at the 0.6830, and if we can get a break through here, we're going to be looking down towards the next key area of support to the downside and target to 0.6746. So next market we're going to look at is New Zealand dollar. Now we had a really nice move to the downside last week. We started the week roughly at the 0.66060, and we're looking further declines to the downside. We took out the target set from last week at the 0.65340 in New Zealand dollar, as we're looking for potentially further advances in the dollar index next week, and we are still trending to the downside in the New Zealand dollar. There is no reason other than for us to look for short opportunities next week in New Zealand dollar. So first of all, what we need is we're approaching this target and the next key area of support to the downside at 0.6501. We need to have a correction take place first. Any correction in this area, as always, preferably to give us better risk to reward if we can come back and retest the previous broken support turning resistance. Any correction in this area is going to provide an opportunity to start to look for bearish formations and patterns. And we're going to be looking at initiating shorts down towards the target set and the first key area of support to the downside at 0.6501. And if we can get a break through here, we're going to be looking down towards the next key area of support to the downside and target 2 at the 0.6425. So the next market we're going to look at is US dollar Swiss franc. Now we start the week below a key area of broken support from the past, looking to turn resistance at the 1.01270. Going into this week, if we can get a pullback and a retest of the 1.01270, this is an area we can start to look for bearish formations and patterns. And we're going to be looking at initiating shorts down towards the next key area of support to the downside and the target set at the 1.0047. Now, we're looking for a decline to the downside in the US dollar Swiss franc, and someone may say, well, you were looking for further advances to the upside in the US dollar. So if we get further advances in the US dollar index, how are we going to get a move down in the US dollar franc? Well, this is how the US dollar franc is structured, so this is what we're looking for. It may be the case that we get a correction first in the dollar index before the next rally, and in, say, let's say, euro dollar, we may get a little bit of a correction first before a move down. And it may be the case in the US dollar Swiss franc that we get a push into the 1.0047 as we get this reversal, this weakening of the dollar index if we get a correction, and then around the 1.0047 we may get a bounce back up to the 1.01270 if we can get that rally. If we get this kind of price action in the dollar index, this is how this trade could play out. But either way, the first opportunity we're going to be looking for in the US dollar franc next week, if we can trade into the 1.01270, we're going to be looking for bearish formations and patterns in this area, seeing if we can take out the target to the downside, the next key area of support, which was failed to be tested over here at the 1.0047. So the next market we're going to look at is US dollar CAD. Now we started the week last week having tested this area at the 1.3401 a couple of times, and we're looking for another pullback and a retest of the 1.3401 last week. You can see we actually came back and tested this level to the pip, and we had a rally from this area. Very simply put, going into this week, as we're looking for overall further advances to the upside in the dollar index, we may get a small correction in US dollar CAD first, potentially another test of the 1.3401 for anybody not already involved from last week. But either way, any correction in this area is going to be viewed as an opportunity to once again look for bullish formations and patterns. And we're going to be looking at initiating longs up towards the next key area of resistance to the upside and the target set at the 1.3564. And last but not least, we have gold. Now, last week we were looking for further declines in gold. We broke through the first level that we had here at the 1289.65 with this big spike to the upside in gold, and we ended up reversing to the downside on the second level from last week we had at the 1301.10. Very simply put, going into this week, as we are looking for further advances in the dollar index, we are looking for this to put pressure on gold. We're looking for further declines to the downside in gold. We would like to see a correction take place first. Any correction in this area, although preferably if we can come back and retest the previous broken support, turning resistance at the 1293.52, this is the best place we would start to look for bearish formations and patterns. And if we get the right kind of bearish formations and patterns in gold, we're going to be looking at initiating shorts down towards the next key of support to the downside and the target set at the 1266.80. And if we can get a breakthrough here, we're going to be looking down towards the next key of support to the downside and target 2 at the 1255.90. So that is it from me for this week, guys. As always, I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please let me know by liking, sharing and subscribing. A big thank you to everyone who does that on a regular basis, and a big thank you to all of you who have subscribed to the channel so far. I want to wish you all a nice weekend. I hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend. I hope you all have a fantastic trading week next week. The only thing left for me to say, guys, is take care and don't forget to trade safely.